So to get us started today, I'd like to invite again our president and CEO at Speedway Motorsports to kick us off, Marcus Smith. Marcus?
Thank you, Scott. Happy New Year to you all, and thanks for joining us today. It's a great time to start off the new year. It's always nice to start off new year and the new race season with good news. And it is exciting to welcome Jill Gregory to the Speedway Motorsports family. It's something that, you know, when you look back over Steve Page's career, I've got to say that he has had such an amazing impact on Sonoma Raceway, nearly 3 decades at Sonoma, in the community and in motorsports, and really laid a fantastic foundation. And I think, you know, nobody else could have done it like Steve. And when I think about that, and when we went through a search for the right person to fill that role, you know, it was not about a replacement. It was about a succession plan. And Jill is the perfect person for that. With her Northern California roots and her great motorsports background, but also a phenomenal marketing background, her experience, her leadership is such a great fit with us. And I know my whole team is thrilled to have her join us, and we're excited to see what she does in Sonoma with our team there. I think it's going to be really phenomenal and something that we look back on and can be very proud of. So with that, Jill, welcome back to Northern California. I know you've got some really cool stories about being at Sonoma Raceway when you were younger, and it's especially gratifying now to be at the helm of Sonoma Raceway. So congratulations.
Thank you, Marcus, and thanks everyone. Good to see you here, and Happy New Year. Thanks for welcoming me back, Marcus. I couldn't be more thrilled about the opportunity. Obviously, this is a homecoming for me. I couldn't be more excited to get back to Northern California, where I have family members, my parents, my sister, friends, college friends, and just a ton of great contacts. And for those of you that don't live at home or in your hometown, you know, the idea of going back is always kind of in the back of your mind, and this is a great opportunity to do that. But even better, the history of Sonoma Raceway, the heritage, what Steve and Marcus have done so far is just a huge opportunity to build on. And so the opportunity for me, not only to marry up going back home, but with a business and a motorsports opportunity that allows me to use all of the great contacts and relationships and stay in a sport that I love while also being back in California, was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And Marcus, I thank you for the opportunity, and I really just can't wait to get started.
Well, speaking of getting started, Jill will be joining us at Sonoma Raceway. Her first day will be on February 1st. So we're looking forward to her joining us next month after she transitions with some things with her current role at NASCAR. So we'll go ahead and we'll open this up for questions. I'm going to start out with Bob Pockris from Fox Sports. Bob?
For Jill, was this something that you kind of pursued, or did Marcus pursue you?
Thanks, Bob. Nice to see you. You know, when I saw that Steve Page's retirement announcement back in August, you know, I think there was just a little light bulb in the back of my head. And you may have seen some Twitter comments last night, but yeah, I may have said to Steve Page on 1 or 2 occasions that if he ever was going to look for another opportunity to keep me in mind. But, you know, we had a lot going on in 2020. So kind of as the months progressed, you know, I noticed that that Marcus and the team had not named a successor. It was just something that I thought, wow, maybe this could really work. And so, you know, things happened pretty quickly at the end of the year, and couldn't be more thrilled to get started. And with the blessing of all the folks at NASCAR, you know, Jim France, Lisa Kennedy, Steve Phelps have been phenomenal in, looking at this as a great partnership and a continuation of the collaboration that we've already had between NASCAR and SMI, and another way to strengthen what we're going to do in the future.
And for Marcus, at least within the industry, there's been some talk of like, when will SMI or Speedway Motorsports have a female general manager? So I'm curious, how much did that play in this decision, and how important you feel having a female general manager of a track is?
Yeah, thanks, Bob. I think that, so we had a lot of people raise their hand for this job. We had some phenomenal candidates to interview and to choose from. Jill was the best candidate, hands down, for the job, and that's why we chose her. I think, I feel strongly about that, Jill is a professional, and is someone that I'm proud to have on our team, and that I think everybody who's worked with her, doesn't look at her as, their best female boss or anything, regarding gender. It's really, I think, more importantly, it's just her skill and her leadership ability and her great experience and insight. So, that was important for us, and I think that's the right way to go about it. And I think her insight as a female will be, I'm sure has been beneficial to her. But like I said, I think she's just hands down the best candidate.
Thank you.
Let's go to Mark Garrow with PRN. Mark?
Thank you. I have one for Jill and one for Marcus. Jill, in the best of times, running a racetrack is a challenge. What are some of the challenges you're facing now, given these COVID-19 crazy times, as you get ready to take the helm of this racetrack?
Thanks, Mark. I think that, whether there's COVID-19 or not, it's relationships, it's building a winning team, it's, providing the best service to the fans. Maybe that looks a little different right now, but job one, and Marcus and I have talked about this, is taking the fantastic team that you have at Sonoma Raceway and making sure that we can work together when the time is right to get back to doing what we all love. So, looking forward to jumping in and getting to know the team there. Obviously a hugely talented team, and then looking forward to integrating myself into the community. Those will be the first two things. And that's going to be an important component, whether we have COVID-19 or not. So I think that those variations will kind of play out over time, but the job in front, at least in the very short term, is to really get to know the team and get to know the community and use that to build on.
Marcus, last year it was almost a day-by-day thing, where with COVID and the coronavirus changing everything, and you guys, Speedway Motorsports, NASCAR, had to be very nimble. Has that sort of slowed down? Has it become something now that you guys are being able to see a little bit of a handle on, or light at the end of the tunnel, or is it still something that almost changes week to week?
Great question, Mark. I think that when you look at the sport and the business of NASCAR over the last 10 months, we have had just a phenomenal collaboration and a like-mindedness around the goal of getting the sport back on track and getting it back on quickly. Jill played a big role for that at NASCAR. And that's, for us, I think you'll see business as usual. And that means since the last 10 months, we've all learned that we can adapt even more quickly than we realized that we could, or that we had done before. And that's been a huge strength for this sport. So we'll continue to do that. We'll continue to adapt and pivot when we need to, and how we need to. And, I'm really optimistic about 2021. I think we're in a better place right now than we were 12 months ago as a sport. And, I think I feel really strongly about that. And we've got a great outlook over the next 5 to 10 years.
Do you feel like as the season wears on, we'll be able to allow more and more fans to come in? And by the end of the year, do you think we'll be able to see the full grandstands again? Or do you see this still being kind of limited at least through 2021?
Well, we're ready for all of those options. I don't know. I'm not really pinning my plans on one, hope or another, because to be honest, I thought we would be done with Corona by May of last year. So, when I got to the point in 2020 where I stopped guessing and just, and just was content in dealing with the challenges at hand and, running as fast as we could and doing the right thing.
Thank you.
Let's go to Greg Engel. Greg?
Hi, everybody. I have one for Jill and one for Marcus, and I'm too ugly to turn on my camera. I'm sorry. Jill, congratulations. I think it's a great move. How would you describe last season and what you and the management at NASCAR were able to do?
Yeah, Greg, thank you. Marcus just said this really well, and I think you've heard Steve Phelps say it before. 2020 was one of the most challenging, but one of the most gratifying years that we've had. And we're, as a sport, stronger than we were, which is hard to believe when we've gone through some of the ups and downs of this year. But that collaboration, the openness to trying new things, necessity breeds that, I guess, sometimes. But we've taken that and not let a good crisis go to waste, I guess, for lack of a better term. We're going to take the best of what we accomplished, and that was working together as an industry, not just NASCAR and SMI, the media partners, the teams, the drivers. That's going to serve us well in 21. So I think you saw an industry that was already pretty good at coming together in times of crisis, really have to step up. And I share Marcus's enthusiasm with the fact that we're going to keep all of the things that were beneficial from that when we do go back to a quote unquote more normal, and we're going to be stronger as an industry because of that.
Thank you. And Marcus, real quick for you, SMI and what was once ISC, now NASCAR, have not always been seen eye to eye on a lot of things. I mean, let's face it, there's been a contentious sort of history there in a good way, and I don't mean that in a bad way. Do you think that this last season and all the cooperation that you guys did and everything together has opened up sort of a new era of détente, so to speak, that's going to help you moving forward through both NASCAR and SMI?
Probably in a lot of regards. I think stress and challenges tend to either bring people together or drive them apart. But over the last several years, we have been just increasing in our collaboration between Speedway Motorsports and NASCAR. And I think we just saw more of that over the last 12 months. So definitely something that I think we all look back on and feel really good about how we work together. And we know that that collaboration was a huge part of why we were successful.
Thank you both. Congratulations to you all. And Scott, John, and the rest of you, I hope to see you soon.
Thank you, Greg. Let's go to Alex with the Charlotte Observer.
Hi, Jill. It's congratulations. Good to see you again. I know you're very active in NASCAR's diversity and inclusion space. And so I was wondering, who are those responsibilities going to fall to with you gone? And, will you continue to be active in that or have any hand or say in those initiatives?
Thanks, Alex. Nice to see you. Obviously 2020 brought a lot and activity for NASCAR as an industry, and the diversity and inclusion space was one of those things. Brandon Thompson is someone that we named at NASCAR in the middle of last year to head up those efforts. Brandon's very well served to do that. He's got a long history at NASCAR, back to our weekly and touring series, and involved in every aspect of the sport. So you'll see him continue. Steve Phelps obviously will continue to make diversity and inclusion a priority for the industry. And Marcus and I have talked about this. We want NASCAR to be open and welcoming to as many fans as possible. And we want everyone to enjoy the sport that we all love. And so I think you'll see many areas where NASCAR and SMI can work together, and this will be one of those. So I think everybody saw through 2020, a lot of positive momentum in this space around the NASCAR industry. And so I think as a group, we will continue to pursue that. And you'll have folks on the NASCAR side that will continue to make that a priority. And I think we'll have the ability to do that with Marcus and the team here as well.
Thank you. That's it for me.
All right, let's go next to Susan with the North Bay Business Journal. Susan?
Well, hi there. Congratulations, Jill.
Thank you.
So I have a few questions. I was wondering, I have found through the years that a lot of people who excel at this level in their industry is usually motivated by something early on. So first of all, I was wondering if maybe you had a hot car when you were a teenager, perhaps Ford versus Ferrari, or did you have any kind of background in that? And then I also, well, I'll just lump all my questions. I was wondering what you had for plans for the Raceway beyond the fact that we know that you're going to open up in the summer. Maybe until then, we can have public Formula car driving around the track. And, I was also wondering if you saw yourself as a pioneer, since every day we don't hear about a woman leading the charge and being on top of the rung in this type of industry. So I was wondering if you might address those questions.
Thank you. I will try to get all of those, and Scott, you can help me keep me honest. I will say, and this is going to sound very contrived, but I had a Toyota Supra when I was riding around the streets of Modesto. So when I got to participate in the Supra launch last year, I told Ed Laukus the same thing. I had an original Supra. It had the lights that popped up and a fin on the back, and so didn't get a speeding ticket, luckily, but that was kind of a car. I didn't work on cars, obviously, but always liked a fast car. So that's been part of my interest. And coincidentally, it's a Toyota, which is fantastic. I actually looked it up when we did the Supra relaunch. As far as being a pioneer, I think Marcus said it well early on. I see myself as doing the best job possible and building the right relationships and achieving the goals that are good for the business or for whatever objective we're trying to reach. So looking at it through, am I a female pioneer? I don't really think about that from day to day perspective. I just want to do the best job that I can and let the results speak for themselves. That said, I think that over the past several years, taking an interest in building more female leadership and opportunities is something that I am interested in and feel like is an opportunity. But that would be with the same lens, building up female talent so they are the best candidate for an open job, as Marcus mentioned. And so I think doing that and helping, female leaders look at careers in NASCAR or in motorsports or in track management is something that I can do to show, young aspiring females that want to grow, that there's a place for them in this sport, not just in NASCAR, but in motorsports overall. So if I can do that, I feel like that will be a success.
Okay.
How about plans for the Raceway? You have some grand ideas?
Oh, we have all have ideas. I think Marcus first and foremost, but I think that you look at the history of Sonoma Raceway, you look at the location in wine country. We look that are very excited about making Sonoma Raceway a premier destination in Northern California, and there'll probably be many ways that that comes to fruition. And those are the things that I can't wait to dive into. So that's part of what made this opportunity so special.
Do you think perhaps maybe a little more of an emphasis on it being a all-around entertainment venue, for example, more than racing, to actually use the infrastructure for, say, concerts and that type of venue?
I'll defer to Marcus on some of that, because that's exactly what I can't wait to jump into. What do we have today, and what is the potential? And I think when you look at the opportunity, it's what is the potential of what this facility can be. It's a beautiful place and a beautiful location with a lot of folks, motorsports fans, and just general tourists that come to this area. And we want to make sure that we get as many of those coming to see us as possible.
Okay. Thank you, Susan. Let's move ahead and we'll go to Claire B. Lang with Sirius XM Satellite Radio.
Thank you. I have a question for Marcus. Actually, I have two, but Marcus, everybody thinks the world of Jill, obviously, and you just have to look at Twitter to see it. Everybody who is in NASCAR, in the industry, knows her. What will she be able to lend, having come from NASCAR? She's obviously very talented, but of the specific side of having come from NASCAR at such a high level, how will that help SMI, the track at Sonoma, but SMI in general? Will you be leaning on that?
Yeah, absolutely, Claire. I think, thankfully, I've had a chance to work with Jill a lot over the years, and we have a good working relationship and always have, and the team at Speedway Motorsports works well with NASCAR. So I think just having Jill's expertise, with us in the Speedway family is going to be a big change. I think we, as well as we've all worked together, we haven't worked, in the same company together. So I think it'll be exciting to see what she brings to the table. Questions like what's going to happen next at Sonoma. I am really excited to see what Jill is going to do. We have, an entrepreneurial spirit in our company, and really, challenge and entrust all of our managers to do great things with the properties that they manage. And I'll be working close with Jill and her team, but she's going to be the leader out there to make it even better. And after great 29 years with Steve Page, I think he's positioned Sonoma Raceway perfectly for the next 29 or 30.
Also, with some of the restructuring and the new world order with NASCAR, ISC, et cetera, there are regional directors. There are people that work on a whole region and not just one particular track, right? And so is that something that she will be doing as well? Or what is exactly the job description these days of what she will be doing as executive vice president and general manager, for fans who might not know?
So in our company, every general manager handles their individual speedway. And there's a lot of work that has to be done in the local communities. We work with all of our sponsors and, of course, the fans. And we have a lot of activities that happen around the speedway, even outside of NASCAR week. So for Jill and each one of our general managers, there's quite a bit to stay busy with, and the harder you work, the better you do. So I know Jill will be very busy with a lot of things in the marketplace, and especially going back to Northern California will give her a great opportunity to get plugged back into the area, and I'm excited to work with her on that. Congratulations to both of you. Jill, looking forward to talking to you on Dialed In on Sirius XM tonight, and congratulations to you.
Thank you very much, both of you.
All
Thanks,
right, let's
Bill.
go next to Bill Sessa with the Napa Valley Register. Bill?
Hello, Jill. I'm looking forward to meeting you when we can all eventually see each other in person.
Definitely.
I have two questions. The first one, in the press release, it said that your first time at Sonoma was for a road race when you were a teenager. Do you remember that day? And was it a NASCAR race or was it something else?
It was a NASCAR race. I do remember that day, although I've had the cousins that I referred to in the press release have all weighed in with their own interpretation of how that whole weekend transpired. But this was in the days before Marcus and the team had invested all of the resources that you see at Sonoma Raceway today. So the amenities there were a blanket on the side of a dirt hill, but you were there with a lot of other friends and fans that had their same spot, same camping spot, and same area, had been coming there for several years. So you know, it was an experience where the camaraderie and kind of that friends and family atmosphere that you see it at NASCAR still today was prevalent back then. And, you know, not knowing then that I was going to have a long career in the sport, you know, maybe that was a precursor to what makes NASCAR and racing so special to fans now. It's the ability to enjoy an experience. And that's the experience I had when I first went to Sonoma Raceway.
Well, and I can relate to that. My friends and I miss our favorite log off turn 7 that we used to sit at all the time. A second question, and on a bigger topic, you were deeply involved in NASCAR planning how to race during the pandemic. Have we learned anything that will change the way the sport reaches out to fans as a result of everything we've been going through?
You know, Bill, it's a great question. I think that, you know, I don't know if we learned anything. I think we have reinforced what we all know, which is fans are the most important part of our industry. Making sure that fans can enjoy themselves at our facilities or in everything that we do is front and center. And we need to continue to focus on that. And you've seen us, you know, across the industry talk about the importance of the fan over the years, and that's all true. But I think 2020 has really underscored that. And we're going to have to learn and understand what's important to a fan today versus yesterday. But, you know, I think the quality of the experience, the passion, the excitement, the community, those are things that we have not seen change. And, you know, maybe exactly how they experience it might change a little bit. But I think the primary theme is that, you know, our focus needs to be on the fan and what they want, and us providing it to them as many times as we possibly can.
Okay, and one last part. Did we learn anything in this last year about how to reach fans that you would build on differently than if we hadn't had the pandemic to begin with?
Yeah, I think that, you know, we've had to make sure to keep those fans engaged, whether we were racing in front of them or not. You know, I'm not looking to go back to the days when we were working with Marcus and Brandon Hutchinson and determining that Atlanta weekend, what we were going to do that first weekend of the pandemic. But we made a decision early on that whatever we were going to do, we needed to keep our sport in front of those fans. So we were able to adapt to that through iRacing. I think you're going to see that continue. You're going to see us work together on content and putting NASCAR racing and motorsports in front of fans at all times. So yes, at the event, but, you know, we're going to also continue to work with NASCAR on making sure we're pushing as much excitement to the fans. So when it's time for them to come back and come to the race, that they're like chomping at the bit to get back to the racetrack. And so you'll see that continue. I think the combination of the physical experience at the racetrack, but keeping those fans engaged while they're not at the track as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Let's quickly go to Lewis with podium finish. Lewis?
Thank you. Hi, this question is for Jill. So to follow up what it was mentioned about keeping the fans engaged, how vital is it to take a role like a track like Sonoma to keep like the West Coast racing alive and well? I know last year was tough for a good part of it, and I know the state of California has struggled a lot with it. How vital is it to kind of keep it going? Consider you're from Northern California back then.
Yeah, I think that the West Coast racing culture is huge. And I've talked to Jimmy Johnson about this. He characterizes it as, people from California, they'll race anything with wheels at any time, at any facility. You just get it in front of them and they'll do it. So, I think that, California in general, Northern California is a huge hotbed of motorsports. And, as we work through what the requirements are going to be, it'll definitely be a priority to keep the race fans in California engaged. And we're going to look at all sorts of ways to do that. And, I think that that'll be part of the job in front of us this year is what is that right mix to keep those fans interested in us. So when it's time to come back and enjoy the live racing that they love, that we're ready for them to come back.
Thank you and best of luck.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go to Chris Estrada with NBC Sports. Chris?
Actually, I see my time to the next person you have in mind. My question was already answered, so thank you.
Okay, thank you. Then we'll move ahead and go to Jim Utter with motorsport.com. Jim?
Hi, this is for either Jill or Marcus or both of you, if you care to answer. Obviously, California is still experiencing some very high infection rates with COVID right now. And I just wondered if you guys thought that, if you felt that you were still on track to have your NASCAR race weekend the first week of June, and if you have had to come up with any sort of contingency plans if something should change along the way.
Jim, I think that it's too hard to really know what's going to happen between now and June. So we're prepared. There are contingency plans. We've had plenty of time to plan contingency plans as opposed to, a week or two last year. So I think, for race fans out there, the current schedule is our best estimate and our plan right now. We do have contingency plans, but it's too soon to pull those out right now. And, hopefully things pan out to allow us to host NASCAR as scheduled. The other thing that would be important is, there are various levels of restrictions that will allow us to activate and occupy the Speedway on a regular basis. So as we get going, different spectator events and the driving schools will come back online and that sort of thing.
Along those lines, Marcus, I suspect that you have various contingency plans for various levels of access. I mean, from a very small amount of fans to a large amount of fans. I mean, you've had a plan for everything in other words.
Yeah, and Jill played a big part in this at NASCAR as well. But we've had to have plans for what it looks like to host the events. Some races last year we hosted with no fans present. Other venues we couldn't even host a race at a particular venue. So we have sort of that whole that whole bucket of options available to us going into the season. We have some guesses, but we're going to press forward with the schedule as is until we need to change it.
Thank you very much.
Okay, let's go to Kyle Foster with Napa Sports News.
Hello. This question might have already been asked, but with the next gen car coming out in 2022, what are your expectations for racing at Sonoma and with road course racing in general in NASCAR? And this is for either Marcus or Jill. I mean, we've seen the next gen car testing at the Roval. Sounds like the drivers are liking it. What do we think the road course racing is going to look like, and is it going to be taken to another level after the Gen 6 car?
What do you think, Jill?
I think that the excitement around the next gen car is phenomenal. I mean, you don't hear the drivers really say universally agree on many things. And the feedback coming off of the tests wherever they've been has been really phenomenal. So, you know, working with the team, Steve O'Donnell and his team, the tests that have happened, I think the industry should be excited about what that's going to bring. And that includes how it's going to perform on the road courses too. So that team has left no stone unturned in terms of making sure we're providing the best racing action for the fans. And at least from what I've seen, I think we have a lot of reasons to be excited.
I would add a lot of credit to Steve O'Donnell and his whole team, and then the race teams that are putting so much time and effort into the development of the new car. It's I've had a chance to see it twice now in action, and there have been improvements each time. So it's and the feedback has been getting better. And the performance is getting better as we've gone on. So big kudos to Steve O'Donnell and the race teams for all their hard work.
Thank you very much.
Okay, let's go next to Dustin Long with NBC Sports.
Thank you. I've got a question for each individual. First, I'll start off with Jill. One of the things years ago was the sport, other sports kind of, and I guess in a way, made a little fun of NASCAR for having all the sponsor patches on the uniforms. And now you look at all the other sports and there's decals and sponsors on helmets and uniforms and so forth and things like that. I know sports take from each other, and obviously some things are out of necessity, but I'm just kind of curious, especially in these times where not being able to have the revenue as much with fans, at least early on, and how long it'll be before you have full capacity. What are the next marketing opportunities? What's the next thing that this sport can provide, or for the tracks, the teams, and so forth? That's a little different, kind of like with what happened years and years ago with the sponsor patches on uniforms.
Yeah, thanks, Dustin. I think that, I'll brag on the NASCAR industry a little bit. Not only are there sponsor logos kind of on a uniform, but sponsors are provided the opportunity to be in the field of play, in the action themselves, and they're required to make the sport go. So I think that's a competitive advantage that we have that will continue. It's great to see some of the other sports do it, but I think that our fans know that those sponsors are an integral part, that car or that driver isn't on the track without that sponsor support. And I think that our sponsors reward those partners more than anyone else. We have the most brand loyal and the most passionate fans out there. So I don't see that changing. Kind of a little bit similar to what we discussed earlier. I see, the sponsor opportunities continuing as we go into other platforms with, our racing action. So you see the sponsor that is on, if Coca-Cola is a sponsor at our Raceway, they also have an opportunity to be a sponsor in the iRacing series. So I think that merging of sponsor value that comes at the track and then also continues on as fans engage with us in other ways will be probably the place to watch. And we'll just have an opportunity to increase the value that our sponsors get, because we will have both the physical and virtual opportunities for those brands to get exposure.
Thanks. And a question for Marcus. I wanted to ask you, since it's been a while to talk to you, I know it came out in December that you're having talks with the mayor, the city, the folks in Nashville about taking over Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway. I'm curious, a couple things. When do you hope to get all that resolved and be able to take ownership if all that works out? And two, why is it still important to have to be this aggressive with Fairgrounds Speedway? and to have a NASCAR race there when obviously there'll be there's a NASCAR race at Nashville Speedway, Super Speedway, there's a 4-year agreement there. So, years past it was you didn't want to divide and conquer, regions, and this is a community. So, why the big push, and when do you think you can get things resolved where you can hopefully, from your point of view, take over ownership of that?
Great question, Dustin. We've had a lot of conversations with Mayor Cooper in Nashville and his team, and that venue is just really special. It's a historic venue for motorsports. It's an historic venue in the city of Nashville, and for us, it's important to be there. We think that it'll make a really great positive impact in the Nashville tourism economy, as well as for local special events. And that's something that's really appealing to us, to be able to play a part in the Nashville community, and see how we can really help to bring back that venue to prominence.
And when do you anticipate that? When would you hope? Is that something that can be done by first half of the year, or is that something that's going to be more involved and take a longer period of time? Or this is something that's got to be done soon so you can potentially be in play for 2022?
Well, I can tell you that we are in Nashville, on a very frequent and regular basis, working on those details. And the next step is to iron out contractual terms. And so we're in the process of that now. It's hard for me to put a timeline on when it will be done, but my goal is as soon as possible.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, I think that's going to wrap up our media availability.